Welcome to another episode of Mysteries Unknown. Guys, I've got a very scary Class A encounter for you tonight. I've got a gentleman that goes by the name of Swamp Dog with me on the show, and he's had several Class A Bigfoot encounters that go back to the 80s, but what he's going to talk about tonight was an encounter he had with Dogman that happened several months ago, and this encounter has absolutely shook his life up. It's changed his life forever, and you can really tell this encounter rattled him. It's one of the scariest encounters I've heard in a long time, and we're going to get into all of that. But before I do, I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for all the support and just being part of this podcast. If you've got an encounter you would like to send me, you can send it to me by email at mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. But let's jump right into the story. Swamp Dog, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you for having me.
Well, man, I'm just excited that you're here. I know this is not an easy thing to talk about, and I know you've got a lot of different Bigfoot stuff that we'll kind of touch on tonight. But if you would, why don't you take us back to the very beginning of this story and kind of walk us through that encounter?
All right. I think in South Jersey, you mean I live in the Cumberland County area? Well, you mean I live in Vineland, and I do a lot of surf fishing, and we usually fish off the beach in Forest Cue, New Jersey. And it was about, I don't know, maybe, if I can remember the tide was supposed to be coming in around 1 o'clock in the morning. So you mean around 11 o'clock at night, I was heading down to Forest Cue, New Jersey. And that's a real marshy area, wooded around the Pinelands. It's in the Delaware Bay. If you look in the map, like if you see Cape May, New Jersey, if you follow that west into the bay, you'll see where Forest Cue is. It's a little town. It's a little beach town. So that's where I fish. So on my way there, going back to back roads, because it's all back roads, and I call it like Little North Carolina, because it's like you're out there in the boonies, out in the woods, and all that stuff. So I'm coming up to the cemetery, and I forget the name of the road. But there's only one way into Forest Cue, New Jersey, and one way out. So if you look it up, you can see. But there's a cemetery on the right, and across the street from the cemetery, there's a house with a big yard, woods, and then I guess behind it's all marsh and swamp area and all that. So I always drive. When I drive through there at nighttime, I drive real slow. I do about 25, 30 because of the deer. A lot of deer out there. As I get to the cemetery, I see something on my right walking out of the cemetery, walking across the street into the yard that's across the street from the cemetery. And it's like I told you earlier, when I saw it walking across the street into the yard, it was so big that I actually thought, we have black bear here in South Jersey. Not as much as North Jersey, but we do have some black bear down here. This thing looked like a grizzly bear walking across the street. And I went like from 30 mile an hour to 0 because I hit my brakes. I had my off-road lights on with my headlights on and everything. And I'm looking at this thing. It's about 20 yards away from me. 15, 20 yards away from me. It just walks across the street. Don't even look at me. When it walked into, the yard that's across the street from the cemetery, I turned the wheel to the left, and I wanted to keep my eye on this thing with my off-road lights. And I got it lit up. It looked like a baseball field in there. When I did that, I'm looking. like I believe in at that time I'm a believer of Bigfoot because of my encounters since '89. So I know they're true, but I never thought there was such thing as a dog man. I always thought that's bull. You know what I mean? When I laid my eyes on this thing, I mean all the hairs of my body rose, and it looked at me, and I can remember till today. It looked at me, tilted its head up, and went from all fours. It stood up to two legs, on two legs, and I was shocked. You know what I mean, I didn't know what to do. You know what I mean, I'm sitting in my truck. I'm looking at this thing. It's about 20 yards away from me, and it just tilted his head like this for a minute, and it tilted his head like this, like it was looking at me, wondering what I was doing. I guess. I mean, that's what I was thinking. I'm looking at it. I'm telling you, I'm about 20 yards or less from it. I'm in my truck. I didn't dare get out of my truck. This thing was the most evil thing that I had ever seen on TV or ever seen in life. This thing, I know this thing's a killing machine. This thing is evil. It just looked at me, and I remember it took one step towards my truck and stopped. The reason why it stopped was because on the other side of the wood, you mean the other side of the woods, I didn't see that one, but that one screamed. And when it screamed, he turned his head, looked at that direction where the scream was coming from, looked at me, and took off towards the scream. So there was two, and I only seen one. This thing was about 7 foot. I'm 6'2". I weigh about 214, 216. And this thing had to be at least 7 feet tall, but massive. It looked like it was in the gym all its life. I mean, this thing was massive. And what I remember, because I had this thing lit up like a baseball field, I remember the hands. It had hands like you and me, but I seen the claws. I'm guessing from what, you know what I mean? Maybe 2 inch claws, you know what I mean? 2.5 inch claws, something like that. This thing had hands like him, you know what I mean? Like you and me, but it had claws. You know how they say, you mean I hear some things about they have legs like dogs that they're backwards. I saw legs like what you and me have, like our legs. I mean, the way our legs are shaped. That's what I seen. I didn't see legs like a dog. I didn't see that. The muzzle, the muzzle was like it was like a it was like a hyena. You know how they say a lot of times you hear it looks like a German Shepherd or it looks like a Doberman or something like that. You mean have a head like a, what I seen was the head of a hyena, but like big. I don't scare too easy. I've been to the woods. I hunt. I fish. I was an over the road truck driver for almost 30 years. I've been to Montana, Colorado, California. I've been everywhere. Canada, down to the swamps of Florida. I've seen grizzlies. I've seen panthers in Florida. I've seen gators. I've seen all kinds of wild animal all over the country and Canada. I never been this scared in my life. With my Sasquatch encounter since '89, I never felt this scared. This encounter lasted, I say, between 2 to 3 minutes, like that. And I never been this scared in my life. I did go to Forestview. I parked my truck along the beach. I didn't get out of my truck. I couldn't. I just couldn't. Dude, I saw something that I thought didn't exist for a long time. And I'm going to be honest, when I used to hear people talk about the dog man, I used to say they're full of crap, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I always believe in Bigfoot because I know they exist and I've seen them. I've been around them since '89. But when it came to Dog Man, I thought that was bull until that night. I got my rude awakening.
Having an encounter like that is definitely, life changing, because you can say what you want about Bigfoot and everybody has lots of opinions, but I think you're right, man. Dogman is just pure evil. And one of the things that I want to ask you before we get into everything else, and it's obvious it's affected you, but that night, how did that encounter affect you? What effects has that had on you, and how's that changed your life?
It changed my life big time. I haven't been fishing. I haven't. I haven't even got my hunting license. I haven't been in the woods to go hunting. I've been dealing with Bigfoot, Sasquatch since '89. Never had a problem. I learned to live with it. As like I told you earlier today, I've been, I've been gifting a Bigfoot for about a year and a half. Me and my wife. He's been gifting me, leaving stuff on my pickup truck and stuff. I like to say we have a relationship, but it's not like, hey, buddy, what's up? You know what I mean? When I go in my hunting spots over the summer, way before this happened, he knew when I came in, and I knew when he was there. I never had a problem. I never felt threatened in any way or anything like that. This thing messed me all up. I just, it just messed me all up. Sometimes, I'm 53 years old. You know what I mean? I don't shed tears that much, except when my dad died or if a dog died on me or something. But this right here, when I think about it, when I talk about it, and all honestly, no disrespect, I didn't want to talk to you about it because I don't want to talk to anybody about it. I talked a little bit to Jeremiah on email, not on the phone, but just on email. And I really didn't want to talk about it. My wife don't even know. My wife don't know about this encounter.
Well, first I want to say, man, thank you for being brave enough to come forward with that encounter, because people need to know, they need to hear about it, and know these things are real. It's very traumatizing. Having an encounter like this changes you for absolutely forever, and hopefully time will help with that. And time heals all wounds, they say. Something like this, I don't know what you're supposed to do with it, but I know you said with this thing there was a different type of fear. And if you're okay with it, would you mind describing with, to our audience the kind of fear that you felt that night?
The fear that I felt that night was I thought I was going to die that night because I was I was I was to be all locked up in my truck and my window was halfway down I couldn't move my left arm to push the button to raise my window. I can't explain that, but I couldn't. My body was like, like, well, you're froze up. Like me, I was like a piece of ice. Couldn't move. Like me, I couldn't move. I couldn't even lift my arm up to raise my window. Now, you mean at first when I moved my truck to the left and I shined the light into the yard and I was on this thing, I didn't know what it was. And when it stood up, that's when my life changed right there. When it went from 4 to 2 legs, my life was done. I was done. I I don't go in the woods anymore. I don't go fishing in Forest. I don't hunt because I haven't even got my hunting license. Matter of fact, this year I was going to buy my first crossbow, and I didn't even do that. I didn't do that. All my hunting gear is in the basement, in the corner, and it's collecting dust. I can't go. I can't do it. I just can't. I mean, I thought I was going to die that night. When I witnessed that, that was, that was bad. I mean, this thing was pure evil. I seen the eyes. I said, eyes, man, the eyes. You, when you look into their eyes, you witness evil. I don't know how else to explain it. I don't know what else to say. But when you stare into their eyes, all you witness is evil.
I've talked to a lot of people, and I can definitely tell this thing rattled you, understandably. Like, you are very fortunate to be here to share that encounter, in my opinion. And I think you're right. They're pure evil. And it's just something different about Dogman. There's just something about it that you can't put your finger on it. They're always are surrounded by a lot of weird things. But when you saw this thing walk up out of the graveyard, what did you think right off the bat? Like, what was your first thoughts?
My first thought when I first seen it walk out of the graveyard across the road, I actually thought was a grizzly bear. That's how big it was. You know what I mean? I thought it was a grizzly, and I'm dumbfounded. I mean, I stopped and I'm looking at this thing walking across the road into the yard on my left, and I'm thinking to myself, "Whoa, something's up." You know what I mean? So when I turned my truck towards the left, and I hit it with my off-road lights and all my lights and everything, that's when I saw what I thought it was saw. Because it's like I said, it had a head like a hyena, not like a German Shepherd, not like a Doberman. The head was like a hyena, and the shoulders on this thing. When this thing stood up from 4 to 2 legs, this thing was huge. I mean, 7 foot. Okay, that's tall. But when I say huge, I'm talking about the arms and the shoulders. It was about as big as the Bigfoot that I've been, gifting. Now he's about 8 foot, eight, eight, 8.5 foot. This dog man wasn't as tall as he was. Like I said, he was about 7 foot. But the the mass on this thing, I'm telling you, if that other scream, like if that other creature didn't scream and he took off back in the woods towards that scream, I think this thing was coming towards me because it took one step towards me. I only had one chance. You know, me gun my truck and hit it, or gun my truck and go. I had no. There was no fight in the game. There's no fight. I don't care if I had AR-15. There was no fight in the game. This thing was huge, and you know, some say that they're thin. This one wasn't thin. This one was like like thick. The upper, the chest, the arms, the shoulders, the neck, the mane. You know how like a lion has the mane around his head? Well, this thing was like from the shoulder to shoulder, like the mane. You know, I mean, it didn't go all the way around, just from shoulder to shoulder. And like I said, the hands. I have big hands, and a lot of times if I'm working on a vehicle or if I'm working on a truck, my hands are big, and I can't get to that one nut. So you mean I have to cook? I have to call my wife to get me. I mean to help me because she got little hands. This thing hands was maybe I don't know. I'm guessing twice as big as mine, but it had hands like a man, but it had claws. And it's like I was saying earlier. You mean I don't know. You heard. You mean, but the legs was like our legs. It wasn't like a dog's leg. You know how everybody says it got that dog leg backwards, whatever. It was regular legs, just like what me and you have, or I mean any human being have. The feet, I couldn't see the feet that good because the grass was high, like you know, kind of high. But I mean, I see the legs. You know, what I mean, it wasn't no dog legs.
Man, that is wild, man. And I'm glad that you're here to tell this encounter, man, and that you made it through that night because that could have went all kinds of different ways. And when you talked about hearing the scream off, you know, in the distance and this thing turning towards that scream and running off, what did that scream sound like? And do you think that you pretty sure that was another dog, man?
Man, I know that was another dog, man, because like I said, I bow hunt. I've been in the woods most of my life. I know what coyote sounds. I know what fox sounds. That was another creature because the mass, I mean, the sound, that when that thing screamed, it screamed. You knew there was another dog, man. I didn't see it, but you knew there was another one there. Now, I don't know if that was the alpha calling him or what. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. But when that thing screamed, it was like a train, like you know that loud, like you know.
I don't blame you for not going in the woods anymore, man, or wanting to go fishing. Because I mean, you know, knowing that something like that is out there, man, that changes your whole perspective on everything. Because yeah, you're fortunate that that other creature howled, screamed for whatever reason, man. I'm glad that that happened. But you know, a lot of times with dog, man, they talk about them being connected to graveyards. There's always a graveyard around somewhere. And my co-host, he had an encounter with something that big, huge black wolf. He said, and it was just massive. But he said where he had his encounter at, there was a graveyard just right down the road. But with all that being said, and having the experience that you have had with Bigfoot and now with Dogman, what do you think these things are?
I think about that all the time. You know what I mean? What are they? You know what I mean? I mean, you know, in my eyes, I know Bigfoot is a type of human to me. It's a type of human. The ones that I deal with, they don't have monkey face or they don't have a gorilla. They have like a human face. And I always told that to Jeremiah. It always looks like Andre the Giant type of face. And I believe they're very intelligent. When I when I used to walk into the woods, it's like I said, he knew when I was there. He knows my truck. My truck is all it's all you know camoed. When I park my truck in the woods, he knows it's me. He'll let me know when he's around. A lot of times, I be we gift him, and he gifts us back. Like I told you earlier, there are plenty of times where I'll have 4 or 5 or 6 rabbits on the hood of my truck, or on the bed of my truck, or he'll leave something like, I don't know, like a turtle shell or something. So to me, Bigfoot, it's more human than what everybody talks about. Sometimes they talk about they're from outer space or some crap. You know what I mean? I don't believe that. I think it's a tribe. But you mean like an Indian tribe? Like, you know what I mean? That's what I think. But you know what Bigfoot is, and you mean that's what I observed. These things, I know it's a blooded fresh, creature. Like if you talk to your dog and he tilts his head, that's a sign of intelligence. So when this thing tilts his head to the left and then he tilts his head to the right, as he's staring at me, he's trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, what am I doing? You know what I mean? So I'm thinking this is a flesh and blood creature. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know where it comes from. I mean, does it come from hell? Does it come from, you know what I mean? Where did it come from? I don't know. But from what I seen, it's a flesh and blood creature. Like I'm telling you, all my life, I've been all over the woods. I mean, I've done everything, and I could sleep out in the woods all by myself. No lights. Never been scared of nothing. Now I just can't do it.
I don't think anybody blames you for that, man. And I'm sure that I would feel the exact same way if I had that kind of encounter and I saw something like that out there. I love the woods. It's my safe place. It's where I go to pray. It's where I love to do all those things. And so it's really sad that people lose that because it's a beautiful place to be. But I think once you know that these things are out there and that they're real, and then what do you do with that and what are they? I mean, I don't. You usually walk away with way more questions than you have answers. And I look at things through a biblical perspective. I do. I think they're pure evil. I think they're some kind of demonic entity. Some kind of creature that they don't have good intentions. You can dispute that with Bigfoot for sure, but with Dogman, there is no disputing that. But
I mean, I came across a couple bad ones, but I came across a couple good ones, like the one that I've been having. I don't call it a relationship, but you know what I'm talking about. You mean that, like with the gifting back and forth, and you know what? I feel safe with him when he's around. But this thing, there's nothing. I don't think there ever would be. I don't think I would ever say that. Oh yeah, that's a good dog man. There's no way.
I agree with you. I don't think there's anything about them that's good. I think they have, really bad intentions. I talked to a gentleman who came on the show that he talked about, this is several months ago, but he shot one of these creatures when he was just a kid. He didn't know that's what it was. Thought he shot a fox. So fast forward years later, he said that he heard this thing try to communicate with him and he saw this creature years later. And he said that this thing used what, mind speak and told him that this was the same creature that he had shot when he was just a kid and it was going to take him out, that it was going to kill him. And he said he ran for this thing for years. He would run from it and run from it. He said he tried everything, just pure fear gripped him. But he said the only thing that changed is he called on the name of Jesus and he surrendered his life to the Lord. He said, and all that stopped. He said it completely changed. And he knew this thing couldn't get to him. But I think they're evil.
My nightmares. I wake up and I'm covered in sweat. I'll have dreams like this thing is like chasing me, like in the middle of the woods, or I'll have a dream where I'm sitting on a log having lunch, and this thing walks up on me. I had dreams where it walks around my dad's grave, like actually walking around my dad's tombstone. This thing's, I don't know. I mean, did I lose it? I don't know. You know what I mean? But you mean I wake up in a panic? I'm sweating. I'm smoking 20 cigarettes back to back when I get out of bed. You know what I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't even know what I should do anymore.
I will tell you, man, like I think that you're trying to process something that's not supposed to be there. And it's a different kind of encounter than when people talk about encounters with Bigfoot. It is different. And, you can tell by looking at them, like you described, that they don't have good intentions. And so I think your mind is probably trying to figure out, what to do with it. And I think hopefully, talking about it will get it off your chest. And knowing that you're not alone in this, man, there's a lot of people out there who've had these encounters. I've been fortunate to talk to several people with Dogman encounters, and it is very traumatizing, but I will tell you that, with time, people get better. And some of these guys, they get their love for the woods back and they're able to go back in there. So, I'm hoping the same for you, man. And I really am grateful that you shared that encounter with my audience and with me. And, I would love to hear from you in the future, man, if something else happens, but, I appreciate your time and coming on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. I mean, I I knew eventually I had to talk to somebody, whether with you or Daniel or Jeremiah, because like I told you earlier, you guys are the only three podcasts that I listen to. You know what I mean? And because you guys are real, you know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? But I don't know what to do with this. I really don't know. I mean, I dealt with Sasquatch since '89 the fall, but this thing here, I don't know. I don't know how to deal with it. But mentally, emotionally, I don't know how to deal with it. I really don't. I mean, it's just, and it's like I said, you and Jeremiah is the only one I talked to about this. I hadn't told nothing to my wife about this because I'm afraid if I tell my wife, she's going to say, "Oh, you're full of crap." You know, that's basically. But I mean, she doesn't know. You know what I mean? Any other night she goes fishing with me. That night she wanted to stay home.
Well, it's probably good that she stayed home that night, man, because that I'm afraid that would really adversely affect her. And thanks for the kind words. It's really awesome to be put into that group of people because Jeremiah is he's amazing, done a lot for this community, and Daniel's doing a lot too. So I appreciate the support, man, and for trusting me with your story. And I definitely will be praying for you, man. I'll be praying for encouragement that God will help you with that because that's a really traumatizing deal. And I would just encourage you to know that you're not alone in it, man. And there's people out here that'll support you and that understand and believe you and know that those things are out there. And, I think we're saving lives sometimes with these encounters and talking about them because people need to know they're there. They need to know they're real. And
that's why when I was telling you earlier today that I misunderstood Daniel, and I thought he was saying there was no such thing as Dogman. And that took me to heart. And I'm thinking, and I'm yelling on my iPad. I said, "Bro, there is such thing as Dogman." That's why I wrote what I wrote, because I misunderstood him. And one day, and then one time I was listening to Jeremiah's podcast, and I forget the guy's name, but he's a author, a well-known author, and he worked with your Green and all them old guys. He was saying that there's no such thing as Dogman. People are and when he said that, I don't know if you can read the comments, but I wrote a comment that some people should just stick to writing books, and some people should just stick to doing the real deal out there. Because when I hear something like when people say there's no such thing, I mean, I wasn't a believer either until that night. But when I hear when people say there's no such thing, it makes me angry because I'm going through a lot of crap right now. And these people saying there's no such thing. and I know what I see.
I think it'll help you, man. I think it'll help you process it, and I think it'll help you know that there's a really supportive community out here that understands and it's going to get behind you, and they believe you. And Dogman is no joke; it's nothing to mess around with. But somebody needs to know that they're out there, and hopefully that helped you out. But man, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight and for sharing your encounter. I definitely want to have you back on. I know you got a lot of other Bigfoot stuff we can talk about, and we'll do that again soon, man. So I know you've seen that thing for a long time, so I'm excited to have you back on. But guys, thanks for hanging out with me and Swamp Dog tonight. It's not easy to talk about this stuff because you're talking about something that is just, for one, not supposed to be there. And when you do talk about it, people give you different kind of reactions, but it's really hard to keep this stuff in. So it takes a lot of guts to do that. But thanks for hanging out with us tonight. And I hopefully you learned something tonight, and that you're very supportive, and get behind people that share these encounters, and that you're really enjoying this as much as I am. But I appreciate the support. I appreciate you hanging out with us again. And if you have a mystery or an encounter you would like to send me, you can send it to me by email at mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. And like I always say, especially after this episode, guys, stay prayed up. It is so very important. We'll see you in the next episode.